Yesterday, the Dallas Police Department announced Officer Amber Guyger had been fired. The move comes as outrage mounted after the shooting death earlier this month of 26-year-old Botham Jean in his own apartment.
We only believed that the right thing to do was to fire this officer.
Guyger says she entered the apartment thinking it was hers, saw a large silhouette, drew her gun, and gave verbal commands before shooting. But Jean's family attorneys dispute that, saying witnesses heard her banging on the door, demanding to get inside. There was growing tension in Dallas after the release of a search warrant showing several items seized from Jean's apartment, including marijuana. Tonight, at Jean's funeral in his home country of St. Lucia, an outpouring of grief.
Our son, you have gone in body, but you will always remain with us forever.
Guyger remains out on bail and is now out of a job. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News.
Guyger, who was still in uniform after work, pulled into the South Side Flats around 10 p.m. September 6. She has said she parked on the wrong floor of the parking garage and walked onto the 4th floor rather than the 3rd, where she lived. She entered Jean's apartment, which was directly above hers, and mistook Jean for a burglar, she has said. The Jean family's attorneys have questioned Guyger's account that she had made a series of unintentional mistakes.
Tonight, the Dallas police officer who killed a man in his own apartment no longer has a job. Today, Amber Guyger was fired 18 days after the death of Botham Jean.
The police chief also said that they're making some changes. News 8's Rebecca Lopez is in the newsroom. So, Rebecca, why now?
Well, Chief Hall did a 180 from Friday. On Friday, she said she did not want to fire Amber Guyger because she felt an internal affairs investigation might harm a criminal investigation, but there was mounting public pressure from citizens, even some city council members and community activists who continued to protest, and today she did an about-face. Amber Guyger was called to DPD headquarters where she was fired after a quick investigation that was launched this morning. The only thing she was questioned about, according to sources, was whether or not she'd been arrested for manslaughter. That arrest is enough to terminate her, which could have been done on September 10th, the day after she was arrested. Daryl Washington represents Botham Jean's family.
The family is happy that there is some sense that there perhaps may be some justice, but we really would have hoped that this would have been something that would have happened a week ago or so.
Chief Hall came under fire from the community for not immediately firing Guyger, and there were multiple protests. She gave various reasons for her decision. First, she said state and federal laws prohibited her from doing so immediately. Then she released a statement on Friday, saying an administrative hearing might hurt the investigation if Guyger was forced to give statements to internal affairs detectives at DPD. She reiterated that today.
Those same statements, if they were to get in the hands of the individuals that are conducting an investigation, could impact the outcome of the investigation.
But experts dispute this because statements given to internal affairs are protected and cannot be given to criminal investigators or the district attorney. And Amber Guyger had already given the Texas Rangers her statement that will be used in her criminal trial.
Pursuant to the general orders that the chief had the authority to fire the officer some time ago.
Now, we asked Chief Hall what changed from Friday to this morning, and she said that she was told that the critical part of this criminal investigation was over, but we talked to multiple people that are close to this investigation that say nothing changed. In fact, they say that there is still a long way to go in this investigation. Mayor Rawlings did praise Chief Hall for firing Amber Guyger. Reporting live, Rebecca.
Lots of tears today from Botham Jean's family and friends. They said their final goodbyes during his funeral service in his home country, St. Lucia. His body was returned there for burial.
Yeah, this is our copy of the affidavit in this case, and this affidavit represents the officer's testimony in this, one that makes it clear. Burglar in her own apartment here. More specifically, here is what this affidavit says. Officer Guyger, according to the affidavit, parked on the 4th floor parking garage here, walked to her apartment, which is 1378. That's on the 3rd floor. She didn't know
that this said level 3 instead of level 4. That's unusual.
She was on the 4th floor, she just said. That's Botham Jean's apartment, 1478, directly above hers. She says the door was slightly ajar and fully opened when she put in her key, that the apartment was nearly completely dark, and that the door being open also alerted Botham Jean to Guyger's presence in the apartment. Then she says, believing she had encountered a burglar, which was described as a large silhouette across the room in what she thought was her apartment, Guyger drew her firearm, gave verbal commands that were ignored by Botham Jean, and then that she fired her handgun 2 times, striking Botham Jean 1 time in the torso. Then it says she entered the apartment, called 911, and when asked by police and EMS where she was, returned to the front door, and only then discovered for the first time that she was in the wrong apartment. And here is the key statement, the last sentence in this affidavit, which clearly represents the officer's defense at this point. Guyger believed she was in her apartment and confronted by a burglar when she fired her handgun, striking and killing him. But here...
Yeah, I don't believe that the door was open when she came in. I can tell you that, and I, you know, I tell you that, and I can tell you.
Let's not believe the officer's account.
Yeah, I don't believe that the door was open when she came in. I can tell you that, and I, you know, I quite frankly, I take issue with the idea that she didn't recognize this as her apartment. I think there's a lot of evidence that I'm saying that was not her apartment. I think there's a lot of evidence to contradict that.
Right now, Officer Amber Guyger is charged with manslaughter, but we've learned that charge could change. It's all up to a grand jury. Channel 8's David Goins live tonight. So, David, the district attorney really made it clear that she's taking.
To Coffin County, she was in custody for about 90 minutes Sunday night. The DA's office
presented to the grand jury.
Johnson said a grand jury will have a range of options, which could...
Ultimate decision in terms of what this charge will be presented to the grand jury.
Johnson said a grand jury will have a range of options, which could include indicting the still current DPD officer with murder. Guyger did not spend the night in jail after being arrested. According to Coffin County, she was in custody for about 90 minutes Sunday night. The DA's office says how Guyger was allowed to surrender in a neighboring county was also handled by the Texas Rangers. But today she said that's not her office's focus.
Whatever treatment she's going to get in Dallas County, she's going to get it, regardless of the fact that she turned herself into Kaufman County.
She made those statements with Botham Jean's family by her side. Later Monday, his mother, Allison Jean, told reporters there is still so much she doesn't have answers to, and she hopes the DA's office can provide.
I'm not satisfied that we have all the answers. And the number one answer that I want is what happened.
Community members got together at a West Dallas Church of Christ, where Jean was an active member. They offered prayers for his family, all while waiting to hear what happens next. News 8's Tanya Iser was there and has new information on Jean and the officer.
Just a short time ago, the family's attorney, Lee Merritt, wrapped up a press conference. He expressed the family's frustration and anger. They're upset that charges have not been yet filed against this officer. He says it's a reflection of deferential treatment, and he called on the DA's office and the Texas Rangers to move forward with arresting this officer. The Texas Rangers has taken over this investigation at the request of Police Chief Renee Hall. About 30 minutes ago, a vigil wrapped up here at Dallas West Church of Christ, where Botham Jean's mother spoke eloquently, telling mourners that he loved God, he loved mankind, and that, quote, Botham never saw race. He was just 26 years old. We heard how he made such an impression on people. He was the worship leader. He led a young adult Bible study. We do know that detectives had prepared a manslaughter warrant yesterday, but a decision was made to hold off on moving forward with the charges. Chief Renee Hall explained earlier today why that decision was made.
The Texas Rangers had an opportunity to interview the officer. Based on that interview, they asked us to hold off on the warrant until they had an opportunity to investigate some of the information that was provided during that interview. So now that we've turned that responsibility over to them, the ball is in their court.
It's unclear at this point what detectives will opt to do. I mean, will they end up filing the manslaughter charge on her or some other charge, or will they decide to go forward and seek a grand jury referral? We also have confirmed with sources that the officer and Botham Jean did not know each other. We'll have much more tonight at 10. Tanya Iser, Channel 8 News.
There is a GoFundMe account that's set up for the Jean family. In one day only, it has nearly doubled the $15,000 fundraising goal. If you would like to donate, you can visit WFAA.com/links. And be sure to stay with News 8 for continuing coverage.
Chief Hall fires Guyger, saying an internal investigation dictated that the officer had engaged in adverse conduct when she was charged with manslaughter. The firing came after weeks of public calls for her termination and explanations from Hall for why she couldn't terminate the officer yet.
So it says she was engaged in adverse conduct, and she was arrested for manslaughter. That's all that it says. It's very vague.